a lot of our young people's confidence because you're always told, you know, you're wasting time. What you're doing doesn't make sense. For me, the Mavericks are the brave.
You also have to wait for the right time. If it's your time, you know, you can't force things, you can't rush things. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not really pushing the boundaries.
Africa is blessed with problems. There are opportunities for us to be mavericks.
Yaliyopita yalipita, wachana nayo. Sasa angalia mbele, sababu mbele yako ni kubwa. Kuna kitu kipya Mungu anataka kufanya. Kwa hivyo, huna haja kubeba watu waliokukosea moyoni. Ndiyo, walikurudisha nyuma, wakakutusi, wakakuharibia jina, wakaangusha ndoa, wakaangusha biashara yako, wakafanya uaibike. Lakini utawashikilia hadi lini? Yamepita, ganga yajayo. Mbele yako ni ya baraka.
To get Yaliyopita by Eva Mwalili, dial *811*937#.
Skiza, Non-Nation.
Africa's Agenda 2063 envisions bold aspirations for the continent, underpinned by inclusive growth and development, seamless integrated trade and commerce, and competitiveness which elevates the continent's standing on the global stage. With a large youthful population, 12% of the world's oil reserves, 42% of the world's gold reserves, and 60% of the world's arable land, Africa holds vast potential to drive global growth and development in an environment increasingly defined by emerging risks. To strengthen the continent's resilience and chart the way forward in the delivery of the ambitious promise of Agenda 2063, Africans need to engage in candid conversations on the opportunities, challenges, and risks that lie ahead. This is why the 5th edition of the Kusi Ideas Festival places the spotlight on the continent's Agenda 2063, shedding light on how to unlock the continent's vast opportunity through trade, enterprise, culture, and transformation. Between the 6th and 9th of December, delegates from across the globe converge in Gaborone, Botswana for an in-depth agenda-setting discussion on Agenda 2063, making the dream come true during the 5th edition of the annual Kusi Ideas Festival. Register today on www.kusiideasfestival.com to book your slot. Discover a future of inclusivity at the inaugural Pensions and Conference 2023, KICC Nairobi, November 28th to 29th, 2023. Theme is Enhancing Social Protection and Inclusive Growth. Engage in exclusive exhibitions, personalized sessions, and extensive brand exposure, fostering meaningful connections. To secure your place, contact William at 0728 550 319. Be part of transforming our future into one that embraces social security and inclusivity, shaping a society where everyone thrives. Protect future yako.
It's a great coincidence that I see you here tonight where Natalia lives.
Such are coincidences.
Well, anyway, now that I found you, kind sir, let me remind you that we have a deal.
Yes, you're right. But you haven't kept your end of that deal.
Who else has kept that end of the deal?
Andres! What is this?
I came to say goodbye. I'm going back to Tuxpan. Here, there for you.
Oh, thank you.
I cannot lie to you, his condition is serious. We are in a race against time to save him. We fight with the medicines that we give him, but that is not enough.
Do we have any news about the bone marrow transplant?
None yet.
Head over heels.
Join us for the January 2024 intake in Counseling Psychology, Education, Journalism and Communication, Peace and Security, Sustainable Human Development, Leadership and Management, African Studies, Philosophy and Theology.
Considering where we are seeing yields, for example, on government paper going, the question has emerged around the ability by commercial banks to really compete for what are becoming increasingly expensive deposits.
a number of dynamics come into place. There are those larger banks that then use their size to their advantage.
One of the discussions we've been having in this country is around open banking and the prospects it has, what it could unlock in terms of opportunity. Maybe you can just give us some flavor, and maybe someone is even watching and they don't have an idea what open banking would actually mean in this kind of market. Just touch on that.
The only thing that banks then have got to be concerned about is their own safety and security. But once you have covered yourself in terms of safety and security, you can allow the consumer to use an interface to be able to access those services in a much more personalized way, if I can use that word.
Praise Atmosphere 2023 on the 9th of December at Sitam Karen, Nairobi from 2 p.m. onward, featuring Evelyn Wanjiru, Prosper Ochimana from Nigeria, Rehema Simfukwe from Tanzania, Edith Wairimo, Celestine Donkor from Ghana, Wilberforce Musyoka, Solomon Mukubwa, Kestin Bogo, and Sharon Ishavuka from Kenya. Regular tickets are available for just 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings at the gate. Visit www.praiseatmosphere.com/events or use paybill number 800-8575, account Praise.
As are we crossing over? As are we crossing over?
NTV, turning on your world.
A very good morning to you. Glad you could join us on this Tuesday morning on AM Live. As is our custom on Tuesdays, we have an all-female panel, and this morning we're discussing access to credit and how we can grow women in business from micro enterprises to the SME level and beyond. My name is Olive Burrows, and the question this morning is, why do women merit special consideration when it comes to access to credit? But again, as is our custom, we begin with the top stories. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has now trained his guns on Cabinet Secretaries Davis Chirchir and Njuguna Ndungu, demanding for their resignation and prosecution. Odinga alleges that the two Cabinet Secretaries unconstitutionally withdrew 17 billion shillings from the Consolidated Fund in June of 2023 to subsidize unnamed private financial enterprises which are linked to businesswoman Anne Njeri. NTV's Sydney Chazima has more on the skeletons that keep falling out of the closet.
As the government and the opposition continue to trade accusations and counter-accusations over the controversial government-to-government oil deal, Azimio leader Raila Odinga is now targeting President William Ruto's two cabinet secretaries, calling for their immediate resignation.
The CS for Energy and Petroleum, Mr. Chirchir, and National Treasury, CS Njuguna Ndungu, have certainly committed criminal offences, abused office, and gone against the Constitution. They must not only resign, they must also be prosecuted.
Raila Odinga has given credence to claims by Busia Senator Okiya Omtata, who claimed that the National Treasury withdrew 17 billion shillings to subsidize private financial enterprises.
I concur with Senator's suspicion that Njeri is the private financial enterprises funded by the Kenya shillings 17 billion illegally from the Consolidated Fund and received by the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining.
Raila went on to claim that the manner in which Energy CS Davis Chirchir disputed Anne Njeri's ownership of the 17 billion shilling shipment was suspect.
This is the clearest indication of state capture and complete takeover by cartels. The cartels speak for the government, and the government speaks for the cartels.
Last week, Azimio leader Raila Odinga claimed that the 3 oil marketing companies were shielded from paying corporate tax by the government. But on Sunday, President William Ruto said that the deal was above board.
This transaction between Kenya and the international oil companies is above board. Wacheni uongo, wacheni rumors, wacheni speculation, semeni ukweli.
Throwing the burden of proof in Raila's court in a classic case of he who alleges must prove. But in a rejoinder, Raila wants the oil marketing companies to absolve themselves from the tax evasion allegations.
Don't tell us, show us. We hope the Kenya Revenue Authority is listening to our demand for evidence of corporate tax compliance by Oryx, Galana, and Gulf oil companies.
The Azimio leader now wants all the necessary documentation signed to seal the G2G oil deal be made public, even as he insists that no such deal exists.
These must be documents signed by a representative of the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and the Republic of Kenya, not that of the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum and ADNOC Global Trading Limited or Emirates National Oil Company.
The controversial G2G oil deal has already impacted the Kenya-Uganda oil importation agreement, with Kampala announcing its intentions to import oil from the port of Dar es Salaam. Sydney Chazima, NTV.
2 people were seriously injured after a military chopper distributing food items to flood victims crashed in Buna area in Wajir. Hundreds of people are marooned by floods which continue to wreak havoc in various parts of the country. Fears of a food shortage in the eastern region is looming, with an increasing threat of the outbreak of waterborne diseases. NTV's Kevin Mutai reports on the food situation in the country.
The pounding rains in the northern parts of the country is taking a toll. Mandera residents among those bearing the brunt of the El Nino downpour. Most of the roads have been cut off, rendering them impossible for locals to access aid amid the skyrocketing cost of living.
Hali ya maisha katika eneo hizi ya Mandera imekuwa juu kabisa, ya kwamba ukienda kwa soko hautapata vitu za kununua kwa sababu barabara imekatika.
Specifically Kutulo Road need a very immediate intervention, maybe from the partners that is of concern, specifically the Kenya.
The rains have caused a massive exodus of people in Tana Delta, forcing hundreds of families to relocate to higher grounds, with looming fears of River Tana breaking its banks. Children and the elderly are among those running away from the anticipated floods that has decimated some of the homesteads and also sweeping away the livestock.
Sasa huu mkononi hatujui kama itapasuka, hatujui. Sasa sisi hiyo zombo mwenyewe mzigo nini? Unaingia hapa. Mzigo unatolewa Honda, watoto wanasimama barabara, hujaona watoto wanabeba zombo.
Ni taharuki sasa hivi. Sasa ni kwa kutoa vyombo na kwenda.
Iko na mtoto, iko na mzigo, wengine hana pesa. Unaenda tu hivi unaenda.
They have now erected makeshift structures along the Malindi-Garissa highway, an estimated 18 kilometers from their homes. Some of the affected villages included Dumim, Bandi, Antaraku, and even Hodole, with some of the people believed to be still trapped in the marooned villages.
National government pia wajaribu kuleta chakula haraka. Manake watu sahi wanahama na hawana chakula na wako na watoto wajawazito, so tuna urge government wafanye bidii waletee hao watu wetu chakula.
As Kenya Red Cross, we promise that all those who have moved from this area, that will provide them with shelter and mosquito nets and any basic needs that they may require. So we are also urging other community members who are in the areas that probability of them being marooned is high to move to the higher grounds now.
In Mombasa, concerns have been raised over houses constructed on drainage infrastructure interfering with the flow of the stormwater. The county warning that action will be taken, including bringing down all the structures.
It's a very extremely tough. It is very historic in nature. It is tough decisions that have to be made. Ikiwa itabidi, itabidi.
This has also left some of the houses and businesses marooned by floods as the region stares for yet another anticipated heavy downpour.
For Mombasa, so far we've got 3,892 households that have been affected, and some have been displaced. That is around 300 households who have lost their dwelling.
The situation has exposed communities to health hazards, locals fearing for the outbreak of waterborne diseases.
Zaidi tumepata watoto ambao wako na homa za mapafu, tumeweza kuwatibu. Vile vile tumetembelea nyumba takriban 12 ambazo ziko na wagonjwa ambao wako na tabu kutoka, wale watu wazima sana, wamama wajawazito ambao hawajapata zile huduma za clinic, na wale ambao wamezaa na hawajaweza kufikia clinic kwa sababu hizi barabara zimekatika.
The heavy rains has also disrupted operations, leaving 2 people seriously injured in Wajir after a military chopper that was distributing food items crashed in Buna area. The Kenya Railways Corporation has also issued a safety advisory due to landslides along the SGR corridor between Mombasa and Mariakani. This has affected evacuation of cargo as well as the delay in passenger trains plying the route. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
A police officer assigned to guard exam material at Mahero Secondary School, and that is in Siaya County, was killed by unknown people while escorting exam papers to the school. And the 7:30 a.m. incident left another officer injured, and as Okusa reports, the attackers made away with 2 rifles belonging to the law enforcement officers.
It is an incident that has sent shockwaves both within the police force and Mahero village here in Siaya County.
Ni tukio ambalo imetushangaza sana.
Witnesses told NTV that 2 attackers ambushed the officers just a few meters away from the school and beat them up using crude weapons.
Hao wawili wakaua polisi moja na mwingine wakajeruhiwa, lakini wamepeleka OC.
Mahero Secondary School Principal Robert Wamula, who was carrying the exam papers, managed to escape unhurt into a nearby homestead.
Baada ya kutenda maovu tena wakatembea wakipita katikati yenu wakitoroka.
The policeman and the teacher had just alighted from a vehicle which was ferrying the exam materials when the assailants pounced on the unsuspecting officers.
Hiyo maafisa wameshuka hapo kwa barabara kwa lam na wanatembeanga tu hapa mkuu, lakini leo wamekutana na wao watu wengine wawili. Hatujui hao watu wametoka area gani, ni kina nani amefanya hiyo kitendo.
Siaya County Commissioner Julius Otieno is appealing to residents to help police with information that could lead to the arrest of the criminals.
Kama una habari unapeana kwa siri.
Fear-struck residents expressed concern over what they termed as worrying increase of crime in the area.
Tulikuwa na huzuni juu tulifikiri watoto wetu hawatamaliza hiyo papers zao, lakini wamesema mtihani inaendelea.
Siaya County has in the past few months experienced a fresh wave of insecurity, which has caused fear and anxiety among residents. In another incident, a helicopter hired by the Kenya National Exam Council to ferry examination materials in Wajir County crashed, injuring 3 occupants. The helicopter was on a mission to rescue 2 young boys reported to have been marooned by floods in Arbajahan area in Wajir. The helicopter crashed moments after takeoff. Ouko Kusa, NTV.
A police officer assigned to guard exam materials, I do beg your pardon, that was a previous report, that one filed by Oko Kusa. The search for justice in the murder of Agnes Wanjiru, a 21-year-old woman from Laikipia County, has finally made a breakthrough over a decade since she was murdered. Several soldiers from the United Kingdom who are training under the British Army Training Unit Kenya, more popularly known as Batuk, and who are present on the night of the murder, have been interviewed. At last, 2 of the soldiers have strong cases against them, according to the lead investigator from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. Gina Kiruri has stayed on that particular story even while the king was in Kenya. That is King Charles III of the United Kingdom. Gina Kiruri, as I said, with the details.
The final moments of Agnes Wanjiru's life go down in Kenya's history as one of the most horrific. The details of her murders quoted in a 2018 inquest into her death narrated the callous nature in which she was stabbed, dragged and thrown into a septic tank while she was still alive, where she was left to die. However, since Agnes's murder on 31st March 2012, justice for Agnes appeared fallen as no progress on the investigations were being made.
Huyo mtu ashikwa, isikuja mtu mwingine afanyiwe hivyo, itupiliwe hivyo mbali.
That is until recently, when officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations (DCI) were in the United Kingdom to interview soldiers who are training under the British Army Training Unit Kenya Batuk in Kenya under the Duke of Lancaster Regiment. DCI says they have found compelling cases against at least 2 of the soldiers who they have questioned. While the argument had previously been that Kenya and the UK's different legal systems presented an obstacle in prosecuting the soldiers and that the British troops enjoyed immunity, a landmark ruling by Justice Kosi Bor in 2022 found that the relevant authorities of the host nation, Kenya, shall have jurisdiction over any member of the visiting forces, the civilian component or dependents for any criminal offense committed in contravention of any law of the host nation, customary international law, treaty, or any agreement to which the host nation's government is a party, save for instances where under this agreement such jurisdiction is expressly conferred on the service authorities of the sending nation. DCI will now send a report to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, who will decide if the evidence gathered meets the threshold for a warrant of arrest to be issued for the soldiers. This could also mean the possible extradition of the suspects into Kenya for trial. Gina Kiruri, NTV.
The trial of ex-Mungiki leader Maina Njenga has kicked off at the Nakuru Law Courts. 2 witnesses took to the stand, but one of them, Maina Njenga's mother-in-law, who was set to testify against him, collapsed. Njenga has pleaded not guilty to 7 charges preferred against him, among them being a member of an outlawed group planning criminal activities, among others. NTV's Ruth Sarmwe was in court and witnessed the events.
The 3-day hearing of the case against Azimio coalition leader Maina Njenga and 11 others began with an application to have the trial put on hold after the defense accused the state of turning some of the accused persons into witnesses contrary to the law.
Consequent that, I direct that the trial hearing proceeds as scheduled.
The application was, however, dismissed by Nakuru Principal Magistrate Kipkurui Kibelion. Njenga's mother-in-law, Hannah Njoroge, was the first witness to take to the stand. She, however, collapsed before she could finish taking the oath in order to testify. The court was forced to adjourn, and upon its return, Police Constable Eric Wainaina, who was among the 20 officers who raided Njenga's home on 12 May 2023, took to the stand to testify. Wainaina showcased confiscated exhibits, among them a pistol, tobacco, 96 rolls of suspected cannabis sativa, tens of walking sticks, Kenya's national flag, and clubs. The defense lawyers, however, poked holes into his testimony.
Can you see some serial numbers? Yes. Yes, what serial numbers are there? YK 351. Look at your inventory. Is your inventory describing the recovery of a pistol?
Yes.
What does the inventory say?
One pistol, serial number.
Serial number? Thank you.
Wainaina was unable to explain how some of the items recovered in the home of the accused could link them to Mungiki, as read in the charge sheet.
Do you have a certificate issued therefrom, signifying that this is 1 kg of tobacco?
I do not have that.
You don't have it. Where was it recovered from? Who among the 12 accused persons bore that tobacco?
Now that I'm not.
Who among the 12 was in possession of this tobacco?
I do not know.
You do not know. Did you ever see any of them sniffing the tobacco?
No, I did not see one.
Did you carry out a toxicological report on their content to see whether they smoke tobacco?
No, I didn't.
Did you do any toxicological report?
No.
How then do you connect this with Mungiki?
As I said earlier.
From your knowledge, correct?
My knowledge, yes.
So what else led you to identify that these are members of the Mungiki? The ingredients, the identification. You have the tobacco, you have the gun, what else?
Njenga is being charged of engaging in organized crime and planning criminal activities in his house in Wanyororo, Nakuru North, but Wainaina could not provide documents showcasing Njenga as the owner of the said property. Documents provided by Njenga's defense, however, showed that the land was owned by Hannah Njoki Mukunga, Njenga's mother-in-law, and shared equally with her children. The hearing of this case will continue on Tuesday, where more witnesses are expected to testify. More than 40 witnesses have been lined up to testify in this case. Ruth Sarmoi, NTV in Nakuru.
All right, just a reminder of what we're discussing this morning. We're growing women in business, and closing the financing gap for women-led enterprises is specifically what we seek to address with the conversation this morning. We already have in studio Gabriela Lorere, CEO, Indigenous Wellbeing Initiative for All. We also have Flores. Flores, the coat you're wearing matches the coat on the poster. I love it though. Florence Machio, Data and Research Lead, Office of the President's Women Rights Advisor. You wanted to make sure there was no case of mistaken identity. It is me, the one on the poster is me. And we expect shortly Nancy Mudhoni, Chairperson, Women in Business Nairobi Chapter, and Dr. Mary Mbidi, who is Director of Research, Women's Economic Empowerment Hub, University of Nairobi. But first, let's take a look at what is in the dailies before I invite my ladies to join me in that conversation. Weatherman warns Kenyans to brace themselves for even more rains in coming days. Underwater. Record rains have pounded several parts of the country over the past week, leaving death and devastation in their wake. 20 people dead, more than 80,000 families displaced, and 33 counties drenched. Tourism has also been hit as floods submerged coast hotels. SGR cargo has been delayed, while towns, estates and villages across the country have been marooned. El Nino is here and the toll is climbing. Even this morning it was pouring cats and dogs, which makes me even more appreciative that you ladies are here this morning. Thank you very much. All right, resign, Raila tells Chirchir and Ndungo over oil deal, as Mio leader Raila Odinga has called for the immediate resignation of Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir and his National Treasury counterpart Njuguda Ndungo over the government-to-government oil deal. Mr. Odinga further demanded that the government tables evidence of an existing government-to-government deal and of Kenya having paid for the fuel in Kenya shillings. On the equivalent of the ticker, we have "It is a miracle. Baby transfused while in womb born healthy." For Melodious Mora, the journey to motherhood has been one of pure heartache and agony. 6 years and 5 miscarriages until yesterday. The smiling, I imagine that is the smiling mother, the picture there, looking down at her child. We also have on the ticker there, Kiboro's 29 children will contest will in fight over 16 billion shilling wealth. A section of Tycoon's family challenges his will, claiming that it is not a true reflection of his wishes and that he was not mentally stable at the time he wrote it. Fuel and electricity prices to go up on proposed April levy is the last thing we'll look at on the front page of the Daily Nation. Fuel and electricity prices are set to increase on proposed changes to the law to double a levy charged on the two products to support the operations of the sector regulator. All right, let's take a look now at Taifa Leo and what they have in store for us. Here we go. Mawaziri kichinjioni katika vikao vya hivi majuzi baina ya rais na mawaziri yafichuka ishara dhahiri kwa baadhi yao watafutwa kazi zilijitokeza. Let me just take that again. Katika vikao vya hivi majuzi baina ya rais na mawaziri yafichuka ishara dhahiri kuwa baadhi yao watafutwa kazi zilijitokeza. And an image there of, let me see, I see IPOA there. Who else do I see? This is the task force, I believe, which was looking into the security sector, welfare of those in the security sector and other officers as well. No, I don't see Maraga here. Let us, oh, there he is. Yep, on the front page of the Taifa Leo. Let me see, let us take a look now at the Business Daily. Although I see also here at the very top, Kiari sasa yawaendea mawakili yadai ushuru wa uwekezaji wa mabilioni ya pesa za chama cha LSK. Might I have missed anything else of import here? Okay. Oh, this is disturbing. Shakahola, mili ya watoto 131 ya bainika. Zaidi ya watoto 184 waliangamia. But those numbers are astounding. All right, let's see the Business Daily. World Bank reveals new 1.8 trillion shilling loans for Kenya, about 684 billion shillings to fund public sector projects. Kenya turns to multilateral banks for budgetary support. And this particular report is by Constant Munda. And the first few paragraphs of that read, the World Bank has revealed a new 1.8 trillion shilling loan package for Kenya, expected to be disbursed over the next 3 years, beginning July 2024, in what it says will support the journey to become an upper middle income country by 2030. The bank, which is now Kenya's single largest lender, is of Equity Managing Director, BCDC Managing Director Celestine Muntwabu, who is on the left, the Group CEO James Mwangi, and Equity Life Assurance Kenya MD Angela Okinda during the investor briefing at the firm's headquarters in Nairobi yesterday. Equity Group subsidiaries deliver half of 34.6 billion shilling profit as Kenya takes 20% hit. And so it reads here in this report by Patrick Alushula that double-digit growth from subsidiaries in the East Africa region lifted Equity Group's net profits to 34.6 billion shillings in the first 9 months of the year, mitigating the 20% dip in earnings from its Kenyan unit. On the ticker, Kiari lawyers clash over client cash at a bank. The Kenya Revenue Authority has opened a new battlefront with lawyers as it seeks to collect taxes on interest earned on billions of cash held in client accounts in a far-reaching move that has sent shockwaves in the legal profession. Win for Safaricom in national roaming fees tussle. And it reads, the rates telcos charge rival operators to connect their subscribers in areas where they lack service coverage in Kenya should be negotiated commercially. A study by the communications regulator has said, handing a boost to Safaricom, which has the largest network spread countrywide, and tower operators. So there it is for the Nation Media Group publications. But let's take a look at the Standard quickly, the front page. Politics of fuel. Opposition leader Raila Odinga has renewed his call that the G2G oil deal is between private entities and not the Saudi government. He has called for resignation of officials involved in the deal and a probe by EACC, Auditor General and EPRA. But MP says Parliament has documents. 3 companies at the heart of the saga, but they have come out to say the deal is above board. That was published. Their statement was published in the Saturday Nation, I believe, and you can purchase your copy, access that on epaper.nation.africa. window Treasury used to get money to finance oil deals. Special report, the Finance Ministry is said to have invoked Article 223 that gives it power to spend money and seek parliamentary approval later. Though this is said, it is said to have through this, it is said to have allocated Ministry of Energy money that was not in its budget, 5.9 billion shillings, the initial budget that had been approved by the National Assembly before the start of the 2022-2023 financial year. The ministry had been allocated 5.9 billion shillings, 43 billion shillings. It, however, ended up spending 43. Let me just confirm that figure. Yep, it ended up spending, however, according to the Standard, ended up spending 43 billion shillings drawn from the consolidated fund and another 20 billion shillings that had been raised by the ministry's internal operations without approval by MPs, with the ministry calling up Article 223 of the Constitution to access the funds. The article gives the government leeway to spend on emergencies without having to first seek parliamentary approval, but later get the approval through a supplementary budget. According to the budget document, some of the money was used to pay, quote, subsidies to private financial enterprises. And Raila Odinga here said the CS for Energy and Petroleum Churchill and National Treasury CS Njuguna Ndung'u have certainly committed criminal offences, abused office and gone against the Constitution. Intrigues surround exit of Kenya Power boss, and that is in the Financial Standard. And at the very top here, Aviation Authority reawakens Ruto's Western land ghosts. As I read earlier, big story on the Business Daily, World Bank to give Kenya 1.8 trillion shillings in loans and aid. All right, let us take a look at, here's the Star is acting up. Let's first take a look at the People Daily as I seek to figure out the Star, see if it will cooperate. As that happens, let's take a look at the People Daily. Here we go. Fuel saga. Raila wants CSs to quit. Azimio leader raises more questions over oil imports, saying Ndung'u Churchill must go because cost is yet to come down as promised, and the state fights back. An image here of President William Ruto and the German Chancellor. Let's see. World Bank pledges $12 billion for Kenya. The amount is equivalent to 1.8 trillion shillings and will be disbursed over 3 years, subject to approval by banks' directors. Let's see if I will be able to access the Star. There we go. And here we have it. Maize rice tax waivers cost taxpayer 16 billion shillings. Could be higher as CS didn't disclose surrendered cash as a result of sugar imports. Safeguards food prices remain high and government raises charges to get revenue. More detail on page 6 of the Star. 3 injured as exam papers chopper crashes in Wajir. An image there. Further down, Raila targets CS's Churchill and Ndung'u as Middle East oil deal gets murkier. And CIC to probe Natembeya over alleged hate speech remarks, ethnic contempt. Michael Waikenda, Kenya needs an economic recovery plan. So there we go. I think I've pretty much looked at all the dailies, and we can transition now to the topic of conversation. Let me just remind you what that is and who I have in studio. I now have a full set. We have Gabriela Lorere, CEO, Indigenous Wellbeing Initiative for All. We have Florence Machio, Data and Research Lead, Office of the President's Women Rights Advisor. We've been joined by Nancy Muthoni, Chairperson, Women in Business, Nairobi Chapter. And good to have you back as well. Dr. Mary Mbithi, Director of Research, Women's Economic Empowerment Hub, University of Nairobi. Jackson, I know we are due to take a break in the next 4 minutes or so. Can we take it now so that we come back substantively with the discussion? Great. All right. I'll have my ladies settle in when we come back from the break. This is what we're discussing. growing women in business. How do we close the financing gap for women-led enterprises?
Ukinipigia simu na namba mpya, kuwa wa kwanza kuongea, sawa? Mambo ya kukaa hapo ati ndio mimi niongee wa kwanza, wacha kiburi, sawa? Sina namba yako, unapiga simu na unanyamaza. Kiburi wachana nayo, sawa? Kwa sababu ukipiga na unyamaze, pia mimi nitanyamaza. Na mashindano ya kimya itaanza na tutaona ni nani ataibuka mshindi, sawa?
To get Wacha Kiburi by Tom Daktari, dial *812*807#.
Skiza na Nation.
My name is Magdalene Maluta. I am a research and development engineer at Arkride Kenya Limited. When I envision Africa in 2063, I see a continent that has great innovations and solutions to the problems that we are facing now. Kusi Ideas Festival is like a market where we exchange ideas and innovative solutions that we need to build the Africa we want in 2063. And I will be speaking at the Kusi Ideas Festival 2023 that will be happening in Gaborone, Botswana from 7th to 8th December 2023. And I welcome all of you to join us either virtually or physically and experience the innovative solutions that Africa has to offer.
Now this week we focus on technology. Just what's the state of its deployment in agriculture on the continent, and just how can it be used to transform the sector?
You see, we are living in an era where everything has been transformed. So agricultural transformation or agriculture in general has not been left behind. And we believe if we adopt some of those principles of transformation, farmers will begin to embrace the new technologies, and that will go a long way to enable them increase crop productivity, have better yields, and at the end of the day, have food security and surplus for sale to earn a better income.
Mortein Doom, with its trusted formulation, it provides protection in seconds. So spread the Mortein Doom message of how we, you and I, can fight to end malaria.
Mortein Doom, Kenya's #1 choice.
All right, welcome back to AM Live. Just a reminder of who I have in studio. We have Dr. Mary Mbithi, Director of Research, Women's Economic Empowerment Hub, University of Nairobi. We also have the Chairperson, Women in Business, Nairobi chapter, which is under the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We also have Florence Machil, Data and Research Lead, Office of the President's Women Rights Advisor, and Gabriela Lorere, CEO, Indigenous Wellbeing Initiative for All. Florence, the timeliness of this conversation coincided. In fact, you suggested it yesterday, yes, on account of the African Union, through the Affirmative Action Fund for Women, are launching something called a series.
The AFAWA series.
AFAWA series, yes, in Nairobi.
Yes.
So you mentioned something about meeting with bankers and all of that. What is that all about?
So the AFAWA series is an affirmative series around women economic empowerment and reducing the finance gap for women in terms of women entrepreneurs accessing credit, but also accessing affordable credit. And this AFAWA series has gone on to different African countries, and now it's in Kenya. We're launching today. in partnership with the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor. And so that is ongoing this morning. And the idea is to bring private finance actors in the room, bring in Parliament in the room, and bring in government in the room. That means Treasury, that means ministry that is concerned with MSMEs in the room, to have a discussion on how do we make credit have a gender lens, even as we discuss. You know where I go, we discuss the gender lens. So how do we have gender lens on finance and credit for women? We all agree that when we put money in the pockets of women, you know you are serving a whole family. The opposite can be said about the men, but I don't want to be controversial about it. So the conversation today is actually to through the Africa Guarantee Fund, that usually conducts training to financial institutions, to build capacity for them to see how best to create products that speak to women's needs. And products that speak to women's needs, because when you look at women, sometimes women don't have collateral, women don't have, property, and therefore how do we still make these women who are a bulk of the MSMEs in this country still afford credit, scale up their businesses? How do we make these women be part of the new industrial parks that are coming? How do we strengthen their financial muscle? So that's a conversation that is going on today. It recently happened in Nigeria last month, and so it's Kenya this month. It's a series of 3 days. So financial institutions are going to learn these 3 days, starting today. So
there's some money set aside, right? Yes. For further lending on.
Yes, hence the Africa Guarantee Fund is to guarantee banks.
All right, and also there's the technical aspect of things.
Exactly.
All right, so this is the website, Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa. And the reason I opened it is because this is the case they make for why women require special consideration. And then I'll ask Dr. Mary Mbidi to weigh in and say whether they are accurate or not. So they say why AFA? Because women are the backbone of the African economy. The African continent has the largest percentage of women entrepreneurs in the world, and this they attribute to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor of 2016-17 Women's Report. And they tell us that the women's entrepreneurship rate in sub-Saharan Africa is, there we go. Is 25.9% of the female adult population, meaning that 1 in 4 women starts or manages a business. Yeah. Accurate, Dr. Mary Mbidi?
Yes, thank you. And actually, women are the backbone, whether you look at the agricultural sector, whether you look at the various sectors of the economy. Of course, involvement really matters, mainly in the agricultural sector and also in the businesses. And in the businesses, the issue is they are many, but they are in the informal sector, and they have much smaller businesses. So majority of businesses in Africa as well as in Kenya, really women are the majority, and especially in the lower side of the business, where we find the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Women are the majority. You find they're employing like one person. You find that the businesses are really small, but very critical for the family.
All right. So just a little bit more of what data the case they make for why women merit special consideration, because I know there are those who are watching and saying these women, because women typically, now this is the other reason they give, reinvest up to 90% of their income in the education, health, and nutrition of their family and community, compared to 40% for men. This means that investing in women's businesses can transform societies. Because women entrepreneurs face multiple challenges to access finance, with an estimated $42 billion financing gap for African women across business value chains, including 15.6 billion shillings in agriculture alone. So this is the financing gap. The challenges include finance. Lending to women is seen as riskier, so they face prohibitive interest rates. In addition, women often lack traditional collateral and guarantees. Capacity. Financial institutions lack the capacity to understand and respond appropriately to women entrepreneurs, who often lack the financial and business acumen to respond to the needs of financial institutions. And the business environment in many countries, legal and regulatory frameworks hinder women's full participation in private sector growth. Nancy, have they hit the nail on the head in terms of why do women merit special consideration?
Yes, they have. And indeed, women today, I must say that because of our tradition and what we go through on a daily basis, we find that a lot of women don't have collateral. A lot of women do not have access to finance. However, the laws are changing. And I think the reason we are finding it hard is because not many women have realized that the laws have changed. And we work with a lot of women who are in business, wherever you are, from the informal sector all the way to premium corporates that have turned from SME to corporates. And we are finding that as the more we educate the women, the more we take them through financial literacy, technology, marketing, we are finding a shift. And this shift is now helping women to have access, to be confident to access money. I think we just need to push our ladies to be more confident that this is our time.
So information essentially is power.
Information is everything. Yes, information is everything.
All right. Gabriela, good morning.
Good morning.
So you work with pastoralist communities, women and youth in pastoralist communities. So you have a special perspective where this is concerned.
Yeah.
In your view, in your experience, why should women merit special consideration when it comes to access to credit?
I come from indigenous community in Samburu County, and women are the backbone of every family. Women are the one who are breadwinners according to our cultural beliefs and setup. And I believe empowering a woman is empowering the whole community. Yeah.
Okay, empowering a woman is empowering the whole community.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there's a question of affirmative action funds. Do they make a difference? Florence Macho, already we have the Florence, Mabel Acheng, my producer, is standing next to Florence. She is now taking off. She doesn't want to be caught on camera. She was not. You're not camera ready, Mabel. Well, Florence, we've had the Women Enterprise Fund.
Yes.
There was WEZO Fund, which sought to capture the women and the youth. Do these funds and even the Hustler Fund? I remember.
Yes.
Half was meant to go to women
and chamas.
And chamas.
Yes.
So do these affirmative action funds actually make a difference?
I think, yes, they do. And the reason government stepped in is because the traditional methods of getting funds for business, which is, banks, were not really understanding women and how to support women. Yet we know you and I are probably in a chama. And every time we put our monies together, we strengthen one woman and they're able to pick up. And so government noticing that there's actually a gap there. That's why this, affirmative funds were created. You would realize that this year the Women Enterprise Fund has been digitized, meaning the middlemen, because people used to use women's organizations. They take their documents, let me help you get the fund, and then they get money through those funds. So through the digitization of the Women Enterprise Fund, that has been reduced, and women can be able to track. You can actually track and be able to see who has actually received the money. Then number two, we've been traveling around the country as the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor to just get the pulse of the women around different things, including access to financing. And I remember we were in Kericho a few months ago, and we met a few women who are tea pickers. And they sat down and they were telling us, I started with 50,000. I'm at 750,000. Now I'm able to get 1 million. I never thought that I'll be able to access such amounts. But because the encouragement of the affirmative funds is through groups. And now what AFAWA series is doing is training banks to understand women. You would think all these years they would understand women. But training banks to understand women and have a pulse on how women entrepreneurs think and how different we are from the normal business, the way they've seen it. They always think, business are big businesses, big men with suits and briefcases. Sometimes a shosho comes in and they're actually doing a very big business. So when you're judging her already by the way she's presenting herself, you're missing the point. Yet when you invest in her, the returns are quite substantial. We are seeing that there's a difference that women, medium and small medium enterprises are making on the GDP of the country. And so women are good for business.
Women are good for business.
Yes.
Well, you've done a bit of research in this area as the Women's Economic Empowerment Hub at the University of Nairobi. I'm curious what motivated it.
Yes, at Women's Economic Empowerment Hub of the University of Nairobi, we are a research and advocacy hub, and we are looking at what works in empowering women. So we look at finances and entrepreneurship and even affirmative action funds. You know, what works in affirmative action funds to empower women, to empower their businesses, to grow their businesses. We also look at what works in employment for the women, because we know most of them also work in the informal and others in the formal sector, and others are constrained by the care economy. So we ask ourselves, you know, what works? And we also look at women collectives or simply the chamas. What works in chamas, so that women can be able to benefit, you know, to harness the power of coming together as women and pulling resources together, little resources through their savings, and investing them and doing business for the development of the woman themselves as well as the family. So we've done quite a lot of research in all those areas, but more specifically with regards to the affirmative action funds. We went to several counties in Kenya, and we wanted to study what has worked. We looked at Uwezo Fund, we looked at a Women Enterprise Fund, we also looked at a Youth Enterprise Fund, and we also looked at AGPO, Access to Government Procurement Opportunities. Not a fund, but it's an affirmative action. We know AGPO is a setup of 30% of all the procurement by all the government ministries and agencies and institutions to women, that should be reserved for women, as well as youth and persons with disability. Yet we find the access is so little. So what are the challenges? We also looked at Women Enterprise Fund and the other affirmative action funds, and we found the access rate was very little. The people we talked to, which were over 400, we found that actually the access is only 10% of those funds. And then we said, what is the challenges? We found that most of the biggest challenge was information. We found that 50% of the people we talked to had not heard of Uwezo Fund, they had not heard of National Government Affirmative Action Funds, which we call GAF. They had not heard of Women Enterprise Fund. So information is very key. And because how is this information passed? Through the print media, through the internet, through other social networks, for which some people, some women, and especially the ones who are in a very, the last outcome value chain, who are doing very small businesses, micro, small, and medium enterprises, do not have that luxury, to read newspapers or to get to know these places. So information is the biggest challenge. But we also found something very interesting, that when women access, they feel that applied for these funds and got them, then they have managed to really benefit from them. They have grown their businesses. They have been able to expand their businesses. They've been able to buy more stock for their businesses. They've been able to employ one person or two people. They have even been able to service contracts that they get through AGPO. So affirmative action funds works. The only problem is, the information is not out there. Many people do not know about it. And the other challenge that we found is, and especially with the chamas or the women collectives, the money that they get through the affirmative action funds, it is very helpful, but it's very small if you look at it. For example, if you look at ASRA's fund, how much money is that? When women get as a group, it ranges from 20,000, what is being proposed for provision, is 20,000 to 100,000. The ones that have been in existence, such as Uwezo Fund and Women Enterprise Fund, the amounts that are available is like 100,000. And this is a group of women who are 10 of them, at least 10 of them. So they could be 30, but let's talk about 10 of them. So when they get these 100,000 shillings, then they have to define it among themselves to borrow, and of course, they return. Of course, these funds are very friendly to women because the National Government Affirmative Action Funds, we know it's a grant that is given to women, and therefore women can be, okay, of course it targets many other areas, including education, including the vulnerable children, including many needs in the constituency, and is under the women, under the woman enterprise, under the woman representative. So this money, a portion of it goes to women that are doing value addition. And therefore, women who are in collectives and they are putting their resources together, they are processing some honey, or they are processing some cassava, or they are processing some maize flour, like the women we are working with in Turkana, who are processing cassava, who are processing maize into some maize flour and packaging it, have been able to benefit from national government affirmative action funds. And you see the difference it's making to their lives. They become more confident, they become more active, and they give you ideas. They tell you, you know, we are selling here, we are supplying to a school, we've gotten an order to supply to school, our maize flour to school. They also say, now we are looking at Ethiopia, we are thinking of exporting, because they live those sites. And then you look at it and say, yes, this is real empowerment. The monies may be small, but those that are able to access, it makes a difference. It works.
It works.
Yes.
Wow. She has made quite the case.
Yes. And only maybe I could just add that the fact that when the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor was not there, and with this government, there's the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor. One of the things that we're doing in the office is identify gaps like the ones she has said, and we have seen them, and hence we're moving around 47 counties. And one of the conversations we're having with women through the one government approach, when we go to the ground and identify gaps, we're able to call through the right ministries to be on the ground and the officers to be on the ground to explain to women what does this mean. In other cases, even having officers help women fill the forms so that they can access this fund. Because if they don't access, then we'll be like, how will we make a case for Treasury to continue having these particular funds? And I've seen the difference that is making. I can give an example of Vihiga. We went to Vihiga and women groups were gathered together. We had a conversation. We had the PS, MSMEs come in and explain. We had PET come in and explain the different opportunities available for women within government. And I promise you, within 4 months, these women had gathered into groups. These women had applied. These women are pushing like kunde. Now I can access dried kunde throughout the year, even when it's dry season. And these women are very, very innovative. So the idea, what she's talking about information, is where now this office comes in to fill in the gaps and listen to the women in different sectors. And the other thing, we've agreed that if women have money, the issues of gender-based violence, which I keep on talking about, then go down. Because once she's empowered, like the lady from Nairobi University has said, once they're empowered, they have confidence. They can speak up when there are challenges. They can actually report cases because they have the money. And I'm hoping by 2027, these women can tell a politician, your 100 bob is not enough. I can fund your campaign because the woman has the money in the pocket. And if we empower women, then they will make sound decisions, even when it comes to leadership at the ground level.
All right.
Yes.
So Nancy, so you want to add something before I ask your question?
We've gone at the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, we've gone round the country, 47 counties, where we've met women on the ground. And one of the things, I must echo what the ladies have said, is that women are willing to learn. And once they learn, we find even now that we've actually gone to our traditional banks, financial institutions, and they are now tailoring products for women. So you find that all the banks that we have talked to, they have tailored products for women that mirror what we are getting from the affirmative action. And we find that with that, more women are now getting finances, more women are understanding what is required, and it's very critical because we give them confidence. We find that also women like networking, women like talking to each other, women like listening, women are comfortable if they're given money in an environment where they feel comfortable. So they don't want to go somewhere you just give them forms and tell them fill forms. Women don't love filling forms. So they want to be taken step by step. And once we do that and we educate them, we teach them on financial literacy, technology, how do you market your products? How do you come out and just market your product through your phone? We teach them how to do that. We teach them how to market. We give them access to trade. We do inter-county trades. And we are finding more and more women are now very confident that when you go on the ground, you find they are, as we all say, that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
They now know themselves, and they can now even go from Hustler Fund, they are now going to the bigger platforms as well.
And we'll get into that because, sorry, Gabriela, you have something to add?
Yes. I concur with that when she said information is power. You know, I'm from Samburu County, and 74% of our population are illiterate. So you tell a woman from Manyata, even we had a program called Panda Kumawiki and Spinach Initiative. And our people even don't take Kumawiki. They call it Mbene, Matawi. They don't take it, even eating it, they don't totally. But when we started that program, we saw women from Baragoi. Now they are doing Panda Kumawiki and Spinach Initiative. They're even telling it in schools. And you can imagine in Baragoi right now, there is watermelon. Through that knowledge of empowering these women, yeah.
Okay.
I think information, we lack information in Samburu County. And basically, in our cultural setup, our people fear loan. Even me, I fear loan. I fear taking loan. When you tell people there is affirmative action, there is Weto Fund, no one takes it. Even if you go by the record in Samburu County, even the land people don't take loans. They fear loans.
Really?
So our people, they lack that knowledge that they can take loan and start a business. They can take loan and start something. But we have NGOs like you said, Nawiri, who are giving out cash transfer, and Boma organization. They're giving out cash transfer for those women to start something like kiosk and continue from there.
All right.
Yeah.
So and that's why when you understand women, you realize they feel safety in groups.
Yeah.
That's why the chairmans start working. That's why the merry-go-round table banking works. Why? Because I'm so afraid I need support to be able to get a particular fund or to get a particular loan. And that's why the FAWA series is about encouraging financial institutions or training financial institutions to understand women and to understand women. Because once I get the first one, I'm able to pay, I get confidence to go ahead. And we know from statistics that women repay back better than men when they borrow. Men default. The default rate for men is quite high than that of women.
Compared to women.
Yes.
But I mean,
because of this fear of loans. In fact, that fear works to advantage because then we are so afraid we want to make sure we have paid everything and as fast as we can so that we move on without debt.
Well, speaking of fear of loans, doesn't it put women on the back foot? I mean, as per socialization, right? Perhaps the banking sector was hesitant where women are concerned. There's a whole, do they have a head for business? They're risk averse. Or somebody could argue that they're risk averse, maybe they're emotional. You know, have women proven themselves to have a head for business, Nancy?
Women have to prove themselves.
Yes. Women, we have proved ourselves. One, yes, we need a lot of secure. You need to make me comfortable. We need to be made comfortable. But once we are comfortable, we are ready to fly. Right now, we are finding, whether you go to the smaller banks or the bigger, larger financial institutions, everybody has a product for women. So women shouldn't fear. You can go to your bank. I'll give you an example. A bank like APSA, which people don't think it's for the informal woman. If you walk to APSA today, you as a woman, you will be treated as a woman. There will be another woman to help you, and they'll also take you through ABCs to understand what you're taking. And today I find that even when you get into a challenge, because everybody gets into a challenge, don't run away. We are able to go back and tell the bank, right now I'm not able to pay, and you're finding they give you a grace period. But of course it's been a journey, and we are educating women every day, and we are going to financial literacy, we are teaching them every day, and I'm finding it more and more better. When it comes to Samburu, maybe that's an area we need to partner, where we can come to Samburu because we have the National Chamber of Commerce in Samburu. We should partner and teach your women that they can begin from where they are.
But even before they partner, we are already going to the ground, and we'll be pulling you along. Because the idea is women are not homogeneous. With every county, there are different setups. And so by virtue of that, we know that for this county, we know these are the things we need to look out for. For this particular county, this is different. How I talk to the woman in Kisumu is not the same way I talk to the woman in Kericho, who is already exporting coffee in the UK. So I have to make sure that when I'm engaging with the women on the ground, I am clear that there is no one size fits all. And that's what we are telling the banks with this AFAWA series, that sit down and understand the women of Kenya. And it's not enough to concentrate on Nairobi women. The women in Pokot also need access to credit. The women in Marsabit need access to credit. If we are to turn around the economic situation of this country, it is putting money in the pockets of women and educating women entrepreneurs to scale up their business. And these industrial parks, I dare say, from the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor, we want 50% to be for women, because we know women are actually good for business.
And even sorry, yes, Gabriela?
Accessibility of this bank and SACCOs. You know, in Samburu County, we have 3 constituencies. Samburu West, Maralal is the headquarters, Samburu North, and Samburu East. You find all the banks are in Maralal only. Barago, you don't have any bank. We don't have any SACCO. Even in Samburu East. So you find it when people from Samburu East want to use the bank and SACCOs, they go up to Isiolo. Isiolo is the nearest place. You know, now when you have a small business, banking it will be impossible. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Mary Mbithi, you told us a lot of women occupy the micro end of things. And perhaps one of the reasons is access to credit, because you were telling us about the Affirmative Action Fund, and they can only access so much, right? So they can only scale up their businesses to a certain level, which now brings in the banks.
Yes.
How accessible are these banking services, as has been raised by Gabriela Lorere? Women in the rural areas, I imagine in Samburu, you read stories that they still have to trek to access water. So women have the responsibilities beyond
care work.
Yes, care work, unpaid care work. So at what point then do they have time to go access banking facilities if they have to go up to Isiolo or Maralal? How do we navigate that terrain?
Okay. One thing I want to concur with my colleagues is that accessing even the commercial banks by women has been improving over time. More women are accessing the banks and getting money. That's what our research has shown. Even from the commercial banks and from the women products that many banks are now producing. They are producing these products because they have seen that women actually pay when they borrow. Our research has shown the payment of the Affirmative Action Funds, which women use to borrow. For example, Women Enterprise Fund was 98% in some counties. So women, when they borrow, they are ready to pay. So that is one advantage. And then they have also seen women represent an opportunity for them, for their business, you know. And so women is a business opportunity for the banks. They can give women. I think the main challenge is banks, by and large, remain inaccessible to that woman in the micro, because that woman is doing informal business. Informal business means you are not registered. They do their businesses in a very small scale, and those are the majority of women that we are talking about. Those are the women that need to be empowered, because the ones who are educated, the ones with big businesses, may not need support. They can compete with anybody else there and do business and go to the commercial banks, and they'll be able to get the bank. So the main challenge is the banks still remain inaccessible because the businesses are not formalized. And again, the businesses, even when somebody has a business, micro business, they need, when they go to borrow money in a bank, they just don't work. They need to open an account with that bank. They need some financial history, with that bank. Bank has
before
to
they can access credit.
Exactly. Before you access a credit, you need to have worked with this bank maybe 6 months or more with an account which is active. Now they can look at your phone transactions, and then they'll be able to see you transact and probably make some story from that and see whether they can give you money. But the banks, by and large, remain inaccessible, and more so also because of the cost of borrowing in the banks, which is quite high, which is not comparable to the affirmative action funds. And what I would say is, if banks want to really provide credit to women, they may have to define a model of lending to micro and even informal women businesses. And what has worked is the women collectives, the chamas. When women work in a group, that group becomes the security, so that each person takes care of the money that they borrowed as a group, and they watch their sisters so that they can be able to refund that money. So banks should think of a model where they can learn from the affirmative action, from Women Enterprise Fund or other funds that government has established, which use the women collectives. And this way, they'll be able to reach a larger number. Another thing I would say is, when the banks think about giving women in collectives, they need to think of large amounts, because that is what women need to be able to grow their businesses. And once they grow to a certain level, they'll be able to now move on their own and borrow from the commercial banks.
I'd like to add on that and say that indeed we are seeing the banks shifting, and indeed we are seeing the banks giving even loans without any collateral. You'll find large amounts of up to 6 million. Up to 3 million. We are finding that shift coming on now. But I also want to admit that because they're educating the women, I'm finding that more and more as you scale your business, you're being now taken to the next level, and you're working together with the banks. We haven't reached there yet, but I know that we do have some of the banks, the local banks in Kenya, traditional banking, that have created programs just for women. At the chamber, especially the Nairobi County, we have informal sector, the informal sector now getting access to finance through the banks, and they are able to take it to the next level. Where you are just selling on the streets, now you're able to get a kiosk, now you're able to get another kiosk for your son, and we are seeing that evolving as we go along. Again, women, we are known, we are very honest, we are known, we pay our loans, and we know that with the great support that we are getting, we are more confident and we are going ahead. So what do I say? This is our time.
But Flo, why did you laugh when she said women are more honest?
It's true, because I just remembered, it came to mind the issues of how men borrow Tala, they throw away the SIM card, then they borrow another one, then they throw away the SIM cards. Women don't do that. That number is the one my chama knows. If I throw away my SIM card, how will my chama reach me? And it's a fact. And so there are 4 serious conversations. We are telling banks, and we're having a conversation for the next 3 days, that borrow a leave from the Africa Development Bank, which is doing the, their FAR series, to try and retool your services, so that they speak to the needs of the women, they speak to the experiences of women, and so that if we are working together, with the government's agenda of making sure that women have access to credit, and then the banks making sure that they are tailoring tools that are respecting women entrepreneurs. And for this conversation that is ongoing today at Safari Park, it's focusing more on the ones at the bottom, the women who are doing small businesses, the women who are forming the bulk, the ones who wake up very early in the morning. How do we scale them up to a level whereby, I can be able to export my watermelons from Turkana and send them to Nairobi or send them to Kisumu for that matter. That needs me having more credit to start going up the value chain with my products. And so we are telling the banks, this is where the bulk of the women are. This is where the bulk of the small businesses are. Start rethinking in terms of services for this particular group of women. So that in the end, we'll be talking about the same group being in the Chamber of Commerce, pulling up. In the end, we'll be talking about when we're doing big trade fairs. We're having our women building up our economy through value addition. Like I keep on saying, those industrial parks, I'm earmarking those industrial parks for women to grow up from where they are and pick up. Because as they do that, others are coming into the pool. And then we are growing the economy further. And we know when a woman has money in the pocket, that child will go to school. When a woman has money in the pocket, that child will access healthcare. And so we are saying, put money in the hands of women, entrepreneurs, and see how this economy turns around.
So, Gabriela, for your constituency, so to speak, you talked about one of the challenges being literacy levels. So when you're hearing this conversation of banking of women, where do you think they fit in?
You know, I happen to be part of Gender Sector Working Committee of Samburu County, and it comprises of all governments, departments, plus all NGOs working on gender issues. But we, a few months ago, like 1 month ago, we had an activity in Baragoi, whereby you said Nawiri brought all the banks, all the NHIF, all those services together, and like a 2-day show, expo for people to see what's going on and what is NHIF. You know, our people even don't know about NHIF. It is only Naitula Lesu, the MP, Samburu West, who brought that knowledge that people should go.
It took a female MP.
Yeah, it took a female MP, Naitula Lesu and Maison Leshomo, to tell people now you can register for NHIF. And I'm sure she's now paying for almost 3,000 people, women and old people, for their NHIF every month. She's doing that. Your question was 74% are illiterate, and they don't have this knowledge. But you see, with the partnership of NGOs and government, we are now able to educate our people, create awareness on these services. Yeah.
But when they walk into the banking hall, do they meet somebody who speaks their language? When you give them forms to fill, do they understand what they are committing to?
And the conversations that are going on the ground right now, and with the banks, that you have to say which product you have, and you have to read for the woman what are the details. You know, those dotted lines, you know, those forms are usually so big. So what is it that I'm signing for? And be truthful and make it less tedious to actually access this particular fund. Because when you make it tedious, even me, I don't want to fill those many forms and read so many small prints. Make it clear in black and white. And that the fact that I did not go to school does not know I don't know how to do business. Africa was built from women entrepreneurs who had not gone to formal English school or formal European school. And the backbone of Africa was inter-country trade by women, not men. And so therefore, me being able to do business does not, or not being able to do business is not translated to me having not gone to school. Yes, education is important, but I can be able to sell maize, I can be able to sell the milk that I'm producing in my farm without necessarily having gone to school. And therefore making products that make sense for every constituency that is a woman and is doing business. Yeah.
All right, Nancy?
You know, I didn't finish.
Gabriela. Okay, let me do this. Can I take a break? I'm looking at the clock. Yes. Let me take a break because it's 7:20 and then we'll come back. Gabriela, I'll allow you to finish. And Nancy, I know you wanted to chime in there as well. We continue this conversation on the other side of the break. Growing women in business, closing the financing gap for women-led enterprises.
On my dark marks, I've tried everything from A to Z, even vitamin C, but hardly any results. Nivea Lumina 630 works from day one, with visible results in just 2 weeks and 71% dark marks reduction in 12. Join the 1 million women already using the #1 Lumina 630 from Nivea.
When you're finally released from pain, that moment when you start to get back to ordinary, and ordinary feels amazing. Whatever pain you're going through, release starts here.
At Stanbic Kenya, we believe in your financial potential, and we are here to help you reach new heights. Enjoy an attractive interest rate of up to 14% per annum on your savings. Make the most of this exclusive offer today and let your money thrive. For more details, call us today or visit a branch near you. Stanbic Bank.
It's a great coincidence that I see you here tonight where Natalia lives.
Such are coincidences.
Well, anyway, now that I found you, kind sir, let me remind you that we have a deal.
Yes, you're right. But you haven't kept your end of that deal.
Who else has kept that end of the deal?
Andres, what is this?
I came to say goodbye. I'm going back to Tuxpan. Here, there for you.
Oh, thank you.
I cannot lie to you. His condition is serious. We are in a race against time to save him. We fight with the medicines that we give him, but that is not enough.
Do we have any news about the bone marrow transplant?
Not yet.
Head over heels.
Join us for the January 2024 intake in Counseling Psychology, Education, Journalism and Communication, Peace and Security, Sustainable Human Development, Leadership and Management, African Studies, Philosophy and Theology.
Considering where we are seeing yields, for example, on government paper going, the question has emerged around the ability by commercial banks to really compete for what are becoming increasingly expensive deposits.
A number of dynamics come into place. There are those larger banks that then use their size to their advantage.
One of the discussions we've been having in this country is around open banking and the prospects it has, what it could unlock in terms of opportunity. Maybe you can just give us some flavor, and maybe someone is even watching and they don't have an idea what open banking would actually mean in this kind of market. Just touch on that.
The only thing that banks then have got to be concerned about is their own safety and security. But once you have covered yourself in terms of safety and security, you can allow the consumer to use an interface to be able to access those services in a much more personalized way, if I can use that word.
All right, so welcome back. Nancy was giving me a tip just as we came back on, and the question she's saying we need to ask is, why are women not going to the banks? But before we get into that, Gabriela, I had promised to let you conclude your point.
You know, you asked about if women, 74% of our population are illiterate, yes, and if our women go to bank. I can tell you for sure, when you see Samburu women, Turkana women, Somali women going to bank, it's when they're receiving that pesa. And cash transfer from the droughts, calamities. Yeah, that's when you see people are streaming in town going to bank. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Nancy, I'll ask you because you wanted to chime in on that as well. And why are women not? Essentially, that is the question.
I think the MSMEs are the ones who are finding it difficult to go to the banks. The banks are still aloof, so they need to change perhaps their language and change the way they are dealing with certain women. And secondly, I think the more important thing is if you go to the bank as a woman, you need to be made welcome. You need to be made comfortable, and you need to get all the information. So you don't need to go to the bank and you're given information, you assume, because you didn't understand, or people are in a hurry, you assume that this money will not be paid, or you need to know how is the grace period, what's the interest rate, should I default, what is the cost. I don't want one day, if I'm not able to pay, you call me and start telling me I'm coming to auction you. Those are the things that keep the women away. But we need to stop, the banks need to be more open and more accessible to the women, and to go very low in terms of giving us all the information. Women would work with the banks if they are comfortable. And that's why we work with our chamas. That's why we make sure that our sisters can guarantee us. The minute, it's easier if I went to the bank and get the money, instead of waiting for my sister to guarantee me, and then I need to scale up, then I'm able to go to the bank. But unless the bank welcomes the women, give us products, and also be very open in the A to Z what you're providing, I think more women will be happy to work with the banks.
Dr. Mary Mbidi, why is it important that we have data that can support, can inform policy decision making by the bankers, by government?
Yeah, data is very important because data shows what works and what does not work. For example, the data, the research we have shown shows that women do not divert credit. You know, when credit is given for business, the banks want you to use that money for that purpose so that you'll be able to pay. And like our research has shown, women, when you give them money, they'll use it for the business. It's just like 2% will divert. But when they divert this money, where does it go? It goes to pay school fees, it goes to buy food for the family because there was no food, or it goes to somebody became ill and this person has to be taken to hospital. So default rate is very low for women. That information is important because it tells the bankers or anybody out there who is supplying credit that there's a good market here. There are people that when you give money, will be able to pay it back. Again, why we need to have data is because we need to understand what women need and why are they not accessing banks. For example, what we have seen is the main challenge is the interest rate. Because this is very high. For a long time, it's been 14%, the one which is better. The interest rate that it seems to be good has been 14%. So you are looking at these women, the women that need to be empowered. They're those micro ones, the ones who can compete, who see how to, they're doing maybe, you know, relatively large business, which can make money and they'll be able to pay. But these ones, if you are giving them money and you expect 14%, this is a small mama who is out there and probably they are not even formalized. How will they be able to access? Then the other challenge is we need data, because data shows that over 48% of businesses, and especially women-owned businesses, are really informal. So again, what we're saying here is, if these businesses are informal, how will they be able to access the banks? Because banks will give the formalized businesses, you are registered, they know where to find you. You know, you have your KRA PIN, they know where to get you, you have a bank account, because also to have a bank account, you need to have registered, and they need to know where to get you, a physical address, and so on. But these women, we know some of them are doing small businesses on the streets, and they need money. So another thing is, you find that they need, why information is important is because it tells banks, as you define the products, as you develop the products that target women, you need to take into account that those women are doing small businesses. They are in the informal sector. They do not have the requirements that you need. The other thing is we have found that the issue of documents, from the research that we did, the requirements of documents, filling them in, the information, women do not have that information. And with regards to filling the documents, many women are challenged with the language. They are challenged with being able to write and also to fill in those forms. They have to go maybe to Uduma centers to be filled in those forms, and then they have to pay for those forms and so on. Or they have to get somebody else even to prepare a financial proposal for them, because they are not able to have that. And they may not understand how to do a financial proposal, which can sell to the banks. So, and these women do not have that capacity. So when we find, what research shows is these women do not have those kind of skills, and therefore banks should think of a more simplified way if they want to reach those women with finances. The other thing about research that we've done shows that women need skills. Women really have ideas, even to do value addition. But like we've done work with women in Kilifi, women, other women groups in Kwale, women in Meru, Tharaka-Nithi, Nyandarua, and Turkana. And these women, we found that they actually have business ideas. They are working in a group in cooperatives. They want to value add. But then the point is they don't have the skill, and they don't have the money, and they don't have the equipment that they need. So again, such research is saying that, you know, when you are looking to finance, you can look at women groups because they need finances to buy equipment. Can you design products that can be able to reach women who are working in groups or in chamas, and they will be able to access this money to buy the products that they need, the equipment that they need for their value addition. So that is why research is very important, because it shows what is needed where by women, for instance, and also the kind of financing that they need. So that is critical. And this data that comes from research needs to be really disaggregated, because we have seen that women are not the same. We do have those that are in the lower scale, which are in the lowest value chain. They have different needs than women that are in larger businesses, because the ones in larger businesses require large amounts of money to be able to export, you know, to Uganda or Tanzania through East African Community, or through COMESA to Zambia, or even we are talking of African Continental Free Trade Area, which is opening opportunities. Those women that are in large business need larger finances. They don't need the same amount of money as those women that are in the micro, or who are at the starting point and who need to grow their businesses, to supply at the county, to start supplying, you know, across the counties, and then before they think about East African Community. So data and research, very important.
Nancy?
Let me add and say that indeed, the affirmative funds, I think the other things that people find it very difficult to access it is people feel, a lot of the women, the affirmative funds come with a little of corruption. There's corruption there, there's favorism. And me as a woman don't want to know you to get funds. I think it should be easy that if I go fill the form, I qualify, I'm given the money. But we are finding more and more now it's who do you know? So that really puts the women off. The other thing that I want to add is that today most of these financial institutions also use your M-Pesa. They use your M-Pesa transactions to make a decision whether you qualify for the money. And that's how the women start growing. But more importantly, if we can clean up the affirmative funds, that there's no corruption, I don't need to know anybody, I think we'll find more women gearing to going to get access to finance.
Greater transparency.
Greater transparency. I think transparency will be everything when we get to the affirmative action funds.
And
So,
I think I mentioned, and that's why I mentioned that the Women Enterprise Fund was digitized to now reduce that, because like I said, when we started, you would find men applying with women's document.
Really?
And, yes.
Yeah.
And getting the fund, because it's the documents that speak. But now it's easy to trace even this number. It's registered under who when they're applying. So the digitization of those funds is reducing that kind of loophole that would exist in such a scenario. Yeah.
All right.
And in most cases, the affirmative fund, you need political. If you are a woman strong in this village, you'll be the one with given. Politically, strong politically. But kama una influence politically, no one will give you that money.
Really?
Yeah. And that money is very small. Like Samburu County, the office of the women rep, we get around 21 million.
Also, you're talking about
Ongaf. Yeah. All right. Florence, my question to you is this.
Yes.
Fine. Munakutana Nairobi.
Yes.
You're meeting bankers.
The banks is in Nairobi.
Who is speaking? Who is speaking for the woman in Samburu who is speaking.
For the women entrepreneurs.
Actually, are they on the table?
Yes, they are.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, they're on the table. Women entrepreneurs are on the table. We have women parliamentarians in the room discussing matters, laws and policies. We have ministries on the table. We have banks on the table. And then, of course, we have what we usually call her the police for women, Honorable Harriet Shigai, in the room, having these honest conversations of what we are seeing on the ground, what we are seeing through the experience of women entrepreneurs, and what we would like to see going forward in terms of access for credit for women. Like I said when we began, if we have seen that for us to end, and we are committed as a government to end GBV by 2026, and there are many other things that need to be put in place. One of the key things is to ensure that women are economically empowered. And in our office, we talk about women empowerment, economic empowerment, and investment, going beyond just empowering you, but investing in you, so that we are moving toward beyond you doing business. There's the value chain conversation, the scaling up business, there's the conversations with the banks to make sure that we have proper credit facilities for women entrepreneurs. So all these conversations are happening with the right people in the room to speak on behalf of women. Yes.
Okay. Gabriela, speaking for myself, even I find it intimidating to walk into the banking hall.
Yes.
I think the last time I walked into a banking hall was when I was now getting the account. And even then I went with my cousin because he already had an account in the bank, and so he helped me through the process. So if I am intimidated, to walk through the front door into a banking hall, Gabriela, how do you recommend that the women from your community, what needs to happen to make us more comfortable? Because Nancy keeps saying you need to make us comfortable.
I think what needs to happen is to empower them economically. Currently, we are doing Ushanga initiative. We are doing chicken project. We are giving them chicken. When you have that mayai and you sell it, that 100 bob, if you take to bank daily, it will give you that confidence, at least you are taking something. But if they are not empowered, if they are not doing anything, they are just taking care of animals and children, how will they have that courage to go to bank? We need to empower our women and put money in their pocket so that they can have that courage ya kuenda kusema pesa ni yangu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Doctor, sorry, yes, Nancy.
I would add to say that what we are doing, and Florence will concur with me, is we are going to the ground to meet the women. Once the women meet us and realize that we are working with them and finding them opening up, that way they are able to ask the questions and they are able to sign. You who get scared of going to the bank, the financial institutions are bringing their services to you. And that way I'm finding it easier. And more women, we go to the markets, we go to market day, we go and put a tent and people come and talk to us. You find it's easier that way, that now the women understand what they need to do and they can now open an account much, much easier.
Well, Dr. Mary Mbithi, what nature of business do women tend to get into, and how does that inform this conversation? There are at least in Nairobi, we used to have those, you buy, what are they called? Health products and beauty products.
Cosmetics.
Yeah, those salon businesses. We have, no, there's one where, I forget what it's called.
The market.
Yes. And then maybe in the rural area, you'll find agriculture. You talked about agriculture. So does the nature of the businesses women tend to lean into, does that inform this conversation in any way?
Oh, yes, it does. Because why banks tend to say women are more riskier in their businesses than men is because of the kind of businesses.
Oh, is that the case?
What when you read something,
I said,
they are more riskier to give
yes,
money.
they're considered riskier.
Considered more riskier.
Yes.
Why they consider it mainly because of the kind of businesses they engage in. For example, the agricultural sector, because it depends on most of the agricultural sector in the country depends on rain-fed agriculture, and we find majority of those people being women. over 60% are women that are engaged in those businesses. So, for example, the business of farming. When there's so much rain as it is now, we know there's going to be probably issues and so on. So those are some of the things that are considered when it comes to the kind of business. So the ones that are involved in the farming, because of that, then they would be considered to be, at more risk. The other businesses, why they would be considered is because they are in the informal sector. And in the informal sector, when they are not registered, you don't know whether you find them. If they are selling along the street, the ones, very small ones, you don't know whether they'll be there tomorrow. So somebody needs to know their location. That could be one of the reasons.
Okay.
But when we have people working in a group, in like what we are calling chamas or the cooperatives, the chamas become the security and the guarantors because all of them are watching each other and they know each other because they have been working together, and that gives some confidence to the financiers that you can know where to get them because somebody knows, somebody guarantees them, and they are watching upon each other. Now, one way we can also make sure that banks reach to more women, even in the rural areas, is when the banks get out to talk to them. Like the Women Economic Empowerment Hub, what we've done, because we saw this is a big challenge for women to access even this information from the banks, to know what products are there. We have developed a women business incubation model, and we are testing with women in different parts of Kenya. And one of the things we are doing in this women business incubation model is that we are linking women to financiers. So we are talking to different banks, and banks organize meetings, including online meetings. And women have smartphones. Women groups can gather, and they use one smartphone, and they get to hear, there's this product, this is what you need, and we can, if you are interested, banks, we can come to you and talk to you. And that is very good information for women, because from that, women are saying, yes, you can come and talk to us, and women are going there. That is a part of the Women Business Incubation Program that we are doing, linking women to finance, to financiers, and that seems to be working. So if banks and other financiers can get to where women are and provide that information, that is very critical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Flo, I'm listening to you and Nancy, and you're saying you're going into these areas yourselves, right? Are you deliberate about meeting these women in groups? Does it make a difference? Women in business, when you meet other women and you hear about their enterprises and you even learn from them, women for women type scenario,
yes,
does that work?
Yes, it does. I think when, like, for example, when Honorable Harriet comes and we tell her, Leo tunavara bas, when she goes on the ground, she's seated on the floor, we all sit. The way women just sit and have stories. And the women start talking about, this is my challenge with, let's say, Women Enterprise Fund, or this is what I am experiencing. There's a positive story, there's a negative story. While we take the negatives to look at what are the gaps and how can we seal those gaps, it helps also to hear women hear from each other and say, oh, this is just my neighbor. You mean that's how she got rich? You mean she was just, just has milk and now she has moved on and she's taking milk to, different dairies. And so those conversations are helping. Like I said, the example that we went to Vihiga, we were expecting to meet about, we were told it would be 4,000. We were like, no, there's no way. Maybe 1,000. There were 6,800 women. Hungry. Nobody paid them to come. They came in their own chamas, dressed in their chama colors, whatever their chama is, their particular lesson or whatever. When we were breaking down the issues to them, I'm telling you, 5 months later, these women are on another level. The one who used to do kunde in the half an acre, they have come together. Even you do kunde, okay, let's partner, ask what we are kunde. And you have somebody doing 7 acres of kunde. And now they've proceeded, because now we link them up with the JKU art, and the professors went down to them and explained to them how to preserve this kunde and have kunde throughout the year. They're doing they're on another level within 5 months of access to information, of listening to them and then providing them with the solutions they need. The resource is within the country, but it's just that who is listening to the women so that then we offer connect them with the right solution. Hence the need to actually go on the ground. We can no longer sit in boardrooms. We really have to go to the villages and hear the women and speak to their issues, as opposed to imagining what their issues could be.
I saw Dr. Mary Mbithi writing notes because she's like, that's the way to go. I mean, that's what our universities, research departments are here to do. Nancy, men, we have their boys club type thing, right? So I imagine that they meet at the golf course or over a tumbler of whiskey, and that's where they strike their business deals, or that's where they hear that there's this opportunity somewhere. How important is networking for women?
I think networking is everything. At the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industries, at the Nairobi chapter, we have networking forums where we partner with different organizations and bring women from all walks of life who come in and meet and discuss. Because for some reason, we don't have outlets like that. We look our best when we go for those functions, and we meet our mentors, we meet women that we trust, and we talk to them. And we keep mentoring our women, and I find that the more we give knowledge and skills, we are empowering them, that they are able to see the right thing and the wrong thing. And that is one of the things we do every other month. We network with women across the country. So our networking programs are really, really important. And what I say, a younger me today, I should have joined the chamber. And so I tell every woman in business, join the chamber. If you join the chamber, you will meet women, like-minded women like yourself, who will help you. And when we network, we give you access to finance, we give you literacy courses, we teach you technology, we show you marketing, we show you trade, we take you even across the countries to see other people and best practices that are going on. So it makes you easier, and knowledge is power.
Gabriela, first, before I forget, Florence, the plug for the Kunde.
Yes, I'll give you the plug.
Thanks. Samburu, mmesema mnauza sukuma kwa mashule and etc. Now women in those setups. Does it make a difference, do you think, Gabriela, when you see another woman succeeding, like what Florence was talking about in Vihiga? When you hear your neighbor, this is, okay, so they also have cows, they sell their milk, the value. If you see somebody else, another woman is doing it, do you think it makes a difference?
Yeah, it does.
Is it about giving confidence and giving courage that if they can do it, I can do it too?
Yeah, it does, because I've seen them doing Ushanga initiative, and naturally they know how to make those shangas. The problem is they don't have money to start up. So when you empower these women with money, they do it properly. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of, because we're talking about risk averse, Dr. Mary Mbithi. So if you take the Ushanga example, so do women tend to get taken advantage of by middlemen?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And women will get taken advantage of, and anybody who's doing business there, and between them and the consumer, there is somebody else or several people they'll be taken advantage of. And that is what we've realized with our Women Business Incubation Program that the University of Nairobi WeHub is implementing, because we found that there are women that have bananas in Tharaka Nithi and in Meru. There are women that sell cassava, and they are growing cassava as a team, as a group, as a women collective, as a women group. And then yet, when they want to sell this cassava in the market, for example, in Congo, where in Mombasa, they are told, okay, we know where the market is. They get the product, they leave it at the door, the brokers tell them, it's us who know where the market is. So, and they have no idea it is sold, and the money will come back. Other times they have nowhere to sell. So that is really is a missing link. So they produce the product, but they can't get it to the market. So what our Women Business Incubation model is doing, one of the things is to link these women to the market so that women produce their cassava and they can sell it directly to the market, avoiding the middleman, because that is when they'll be able to make the money. And more specifically, what our Women Business Incubation Program is doing is also training these women to have the skill. We have linked them with Kildi to get training, and also with Kenya Industrial Estates. And these women come here for training and for follow-up and training and producing products from the common manufacturing facility that is found at Kildi, so that these women can be able to, to process. They can be able to process their.
Sorry, Nancy. Let's get Nancy some water, please. Sorry, happens to me as well.
Yes.
We're sorting that out. Pole sana, Nancy.
Yes. So, sorry.
Dr. Mary?
So what we have noted with our Women Business Incubation Program, what we are doing is we take these women, they value add, they get the skills to value add their cassava into flour, which means they can sell it at a higher price. They package it very well. They have been shown how to do that through Kildi. And also they through Kildi, they work with Kildi to get KEBS certificate, because with KEBS certificate, they have certification. They can be able to sell in the market. They can be able to sell their products in the market. Even women in Kajiado, we are also working with women in Kajiado to process their milk into different products. So they are trained by Kenya Industrial Estates how to value add in the standard way, common what is required by the Kenya National Bureau of Standards, and they will also work with them until they get the certificate from Kenya Bureau of Standards. And that will enable them to get the product to the supermarket instead of them selling the raw milk. And when they sell the raw milk, somebody else will process it, add value, and earn more. So when we eliminate the middle person, then that means better income for the women. And that better income for the women is good business for the families because they have more income.
Yeah. No, right. Flo, the bigger the business, the more complex things get. Because then Kiare gets involved. On a lighter note. So, I mean, how do we assist women navigate this bureaucracy? Because a lot of times, you have people who are established in businesses. They know somebody. They have a contact person in some of these government agencies, like she's mentioned KEBS, for instance. So they can simply pick up the phone and make a call and figure out whatever assistance they need. But for a woman who is now scaling up, how do they now navigate that?
So there's several things we're doing as we go to the ground and listen to and the president was very clear about people need to go and see. Go meet the people, go hear from the people. Otherwise, you'll be sitting in the boardroom and pushing policies, and you don't know whether they are really making sense to Mwananchi. And so one of the things that the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor has done is listen, go listen. What are the gaps? Which agency is not here that needs to be here? Is it KEBS? KEBS, can you come and train these women on how to be KEBS certified? What do we need? And so for all those conversations, we know which agency. And the beauty of our office is that we are a coordinating agency. We might not be the implementer, but we are listening for women and then seeing where is the gap and pulling in the right agency to come and do, implement what they're supposed to implement based on their mandate. And so as we go down, we're hearing, and that's why we had women, and that's why there's a FAWA series. But also we're hearing women to see which agency needs to support you to get where you need to go. Because sometimes you don't know. I mean, you have to navigate. There are so many government things to navigate. You don't know, where do I register this type of business? Do I register as a social welfare if I'm a chama? How am I supposed to register? So giving women those options so that they choose, and then also showing them and bringing the officers where necessary to the ground so that we're making it easier for women to access government services. And then, of course, there's the whole one portal that has been put in place through the e-citizen. So how does this woman navigate that portal? So even just having somebody sit down with the woman and explain, especially within groups, to see what do I need to do. Because even your birth certificate or whatever, it will have to go through that process. Those basic services that you might not know. And that's why Huduma centers are also supposed to be there to help you ask those questions and be able to navigate. And so for us, as a Women's Rights Advisor's Office, we believe that access to credit is a woman's right. And therefore, what gaps exist And how do we mitigate? Is it within private sector? Is it within government? And how does this KEBS come to the ground? How does the officers from the Women Enterprise Fund come to the ground to help this woman? How do the chiefs come to the ground to help these women navigate if they need a letter, if they need recommendation? I mean, the chief is there to serve the people. So all those things, even the minute ones, it's what we are listening for, so that we are able to link this woman with what she really needs to support her to scale up. It is in our interest that a woman scales up.
All right.
Yes.
Nancy, are you okay now?
Yes.
Okay, for listener. That was me yesterday morning. Yes. So as the last remark, I'll just ask you to also weigh in on what I asked Florence, which was, the more you scale up, the more complex things tend to get. So let's say you want to now export your ushanga, then there are more players that now you have to contend with. How do we navigate that?
I think number one is you get into forums that help you and also understand how the export market operates. You need to understand how to package your product if you're exporting now to other countries, because not everything goes the way we do it in Kenya. So you need to understand, how do I package my cashew nuts? How do I package my tea? How do I package myself? But more importantly, I believe that you should join some institutions, and I always tell everybody, I've told you before, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce will help you navigate that conversation, whether you want to go to China, whether you want to go to Malaysia, wherever you want to go, or they will also tell you where are the markets. So it's you to also understand, where can you sell your products, how do you package your products, and where are the markets, even understanding the currency. If you're selling to Uganda, do you understand the currency of Uganda? Do you understand what they require? Do you understand the paperwork that is needed? So you need to get people to help you, especially the first 2-3 times. Don't do it alone. If you do it alone, you are prone to middlemen who cheat you, you're prone to lies. Do you insure your product? All those things, we help you navigate that journey. And I find it easier when you go. I tell people the chamber is like your big brother. Go to your big brother and let him help you. And it makes it much, much easier.
All right.
Don't do it alone.
Don't do it alone. In 30 seconds each, if you're able, your last remarks, Dr. Mary Mbedi, Gabriela.
Yeah, women have business ideas, and one of the key challenges to them is finances. And if women can access these finances, their businesses will grow.
All right. And your last word, Gabriela?
I didn't tell you what we do in our organization. Maybe I should
if you can, in 30 seconds.
Okay. Indigenous Wellbeing Initiative for All is a community-based organization advocating for the right, inclusion and participation of women, youth, and persons living with disability. We are bridging the gap between poverty, insecurity, and social empowerment. That's why we are empowering our women economically through Ushanga Initiative, Chicken Project, Panda Sukuma Wiki and Peanuts Initiative, and cash transfer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Women, see, women keep their word. In 10 seconds.
No, I wanted to say that I want to urge financial institutions to strengthen their value proposition for women entrepreneurs.
All right. Yes. And I mean, I agree with you on the bit of industrial parks, because it's a great opportunity in terms of the equipment, and I imagine there would be supporting agencies there as well. So I want to thank you, ladies, for being here. Nancy, what I got from you is make us comfortable, and also no need to reinvent the wheel. If you can get somebody to help you that is credible, then do that. Network, join an organization. Women are comfortable. Communal, naturally. So Dr. Mary Mbedi, Women's Economic Empowerment Hub, University of Nairobi. Nancy Muthoni, she is the Nairobi Chapter Chair of Women in Business under the auspices of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We also have Gabriela Lorere, who is the CEO, Indigenous Wellbeing Initiative for All. There we go. And Florence Machio, Data and Research Lead. And she is part of the Office Women's Rights Advisor to the President. Whew, ladies, that was right, the tongue tie there. Well, thank you, ladies, for being here. Coming up, Beyond Buzz, Second Chances. I'm happy to be hosting another woman as well. Renee Ngamau will be joining us for that conversation on the other side of this break.
We've got unbeatable shows for the whole neighborhood to choose from.
I can have my happily ever after.
So stay connected to DSTV this holiday season to make the best entertainment yours. DSTV, it's your moment.
My name is Andrew Unalen Nasisingi. I'm the Botswana High Commissioner to the Republic of Kenya. My dream for Africa 2063 is obviously your dream.